After 3 separate visits to Dunedin, I can easily say that it is one of my personal favorites when it comes to exploring different towns and cities throughout New Zealand. But when you're planning your South Island road trip, trying to hit up as many amazing spots as you possibly can, you might look over to Dunedin and think, yeah, nah, it's a little out of the way. Probably skip that. That's ultimately up for you to decide, but I'm going to show you off over 10 different cool things that we've been able to see and experience in order to help you make that choice. Thanks for coming along. Let's get cracking. Number 1, Signal Hill Lookout. One of my favorite things to do in a new city is to find a good lookout. I'm sure you've noticed from different videos, I like to get a nice little lay of the land. And Signal Hill Lookout is absolutely perfect for that. It's easily accessible by foot and by bike, though it is quite the hike. Ooh, rhyming now. But we opted to go by car. The lookout itself is situated at an elevation of approximately 393 meters above sea level. Bring your camera because you get a pretty amazing view of the central business district, the Otago Peninsula, the harbor, and the Pacific Ocean. And if you didn't know that Dunedin was filled with Scottish roots before, you will after looking closely at the John Wycliffe Rock. Now this boulder was gifted to the city of Dunedin by the city of Edinburgh, the capital of Scotland. They shipped it in. It's pretty cool. The rock serves as a reminder of the historical and cultural connection between these two sister cities. Number 2, Baldwin Street. Now we took a little bus from downtown over to Baldwin Street, so we could say we walked up the steepest street in the world. It's recognized as the world's steepest residential street by Guinness World Records, despite having a brief moment of time where it was stripped of its title to a small town in Wales. But let's talk some numbers here. It's 350 meters long, steepest point gradient is approximately 35%. You could also say 19 degrees or 1 in 2.86, meaning for every 2.86 meters you walk horizontally, you are walking up 1 meter vertically. It took us about 10 minutes to get to the top, but for the more fit people, I would say 5 to 7 minutes. It's pretty short and sweet. When you get to the top, there's a water fountain, so that's kind of nice if you need some H2O. Also, a couple of plaques letting you know of some people who have roller skated and pogo sticked up this street. I did make a short about Baldwin Street about 2 months ago, and some of the comments were interesting. All I have to say is just be respectful of the homes that are on Baldwin Street, and if you find yourself under the influence of alcohol or any other drug, maybe stay away. Don't try and get any funny ideas. You might think it's a good idea, but it's not. I really like walking around downtown Dunedin. The architecture has a really nice mix of historic and modern. Walking around the Octagon at night is great because you get to see everything lit up really well. St. Paul's Cathedral and the Dunedin Center look really amazing, but the whole Octagon itself is just awesome. There's a lot of bars, there's a lot of restaurants, public art gallery, there's a cinema. I really like that downtown area there. And if you start exploring further out, you'll stumble upon some really beautiful buildings. One of the most photographed buildings in all of New Zealand is the railway station. And despite seeing it partially under construction, it was still very impressive. We did a lot of walking downtown, lots of cool things to check out, lots of shops, lots of restaurants. We really enjoyed it. Now, before we skip too far past the railway station, I will say, the Sports Hall of Fame is in that building. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a pretty big sports guy. Seeing some of the accomplishments of New Zealanders showcased in the Sports Hall of Fame is something I would say is absolutely worth it. Number 1, because it's like $6 to get in. It's not this crazy done up, like Hockey Hall of Fame or Rock and Roll Museum or anything like that. It's in a really old building, and it's just, there's not a whole lot of flashy lights or interactive games or videos that are playing in the background. It's just a very simple, here's a glass display case with a bunch of newspaper clippings, and this is what that one person did, and we're proud of them. About a year before coming to New Zealand, we got really into rugby, so seeing a lot of the All Blacks memorabilia showcased and hearing stories about their origins and the haka and certain things like that was absolutely interesting as hell. I thought it would take up majority of the Hall of Fame, to be honest with you, but there was actually a lot more than I was expecting. I won't get into everything, but I will say that there was a really cool display about Edmund Hillary, a New Zealander mountaineer who, along with Tenzing Norgay, became the first 2 people to climb Mount Everest in 1953. Number 5, Speights Brewery Tour. Walking around Dunedin can get you pretty thirsty, and while I usually try and work a brewery into one of my videos, this one actually came really easy because this is actually a very high up attraction on a lot of websites and lists that I didn't even make. So the beer is coming to us naturally for once. The Speights Brewery was established in 1876, and what they've done for their tour to show off the history and how they used to make beer, it's really fascinating, even if you're not a beer drinker. I think it would be. Brittany and I were there on a Tuesday afternoon in the fall. Nobody else was there, so we essentially got a free private tour. I won't get too into it, but I'll just say, whether you're a fan of Speights beer or not, being able to see the history of this gravity-fed brewery, the traditional brewing methods that were used, the marketing, the behind-the-scenes stories of some of the employees, and the cultural impact that it's had on Dunedin, and really all of the South Island, is cool to know. Your tour does include a tasting session at the end, which is really great. I find that the beers do taste better when you're hit with a lot of history before trying them. They had a pretty good cider as well. And honestly, if Speights beer really isn't your thing, they are owned by Lion, a global beverage company with a huge seat in the Australia and New Zealand markets, who represent or have purchased a number of different breweries, such as Steinlager and Tooheys, for example, but also different craft breweries in New Zealand. So you're likely going to be able to try a few of their beers on their guest taps. They had like 4 or 5 guest taps there. I think we tried most of them. Not bad beer. We had a really great experience there. I think if you wanted to take home a little souvenir, there was no shortage of swag. I don't think I've seen that much swag at a brewery since we were in Golden, Colorado at the Coors Brewery. Like, they had everything you could think of. But we were able to find a couple really cool craft breweries in Dunedin, and I just kind of want to shout out a few because I think if you do like beer and you're going to Dunedin, you should check these guys out. Number 1, Steamer Basin. They have such a cool location. Like, if I was bringing a friend here for the first time, I'd be like, yeah, no, like, just come with me. I know this really cool spot. It's kind of like tucked in behind a corner to an alleyway, and there's all this graffiti on the wall, and you go around the corner, it's just like, boom, there it is. Like, it looks really cool. Steamer Basin is just this awesome little hole in the wall, and it looks to be in this heritage building, clearly renovated on the inside whilst keeping the exposed brick, and it's got just a great mix of wood and black steel. Love it. Owners are extremely friendly. They make good pizza. They make great beer. Love them. The other one we found was called Noisy Brewing Company, and they're located right across the street from the railway station in this cool little small, restaurant and bar hub. It's really neat. We went there once on a very quiet afternoon, had a great time talking to those folks, and then we went back after the All Blacks game where everyone was having a good time there. Just have nothing but great things to say about both breweries that we checked out there. Here we are again, hanging out in the Otago region that's just so well known for their wine, talking about beer. But it's really good beer. Number 6, Tunnel Beach. Take a little drive outside the city center towards the water and you will find Tunnel Beach. Now, this was pretty high on our list, so we were really thankful that we were able to experience this on our last day in Dunedin. Parking can be a little hit or miss, but lucky for you, it looks like they are so close to finishing a really nice new parking lot with so many more spots. By the time you go there, it's probably going to be done. But again, just be prepared for a little bit of a steeper walk. Going down, really easy. 15 minutes and you're down there. Going up, what goes down must come up. But the views that you get on your walkway down are straight up incredible. Those cliffs, just dramatic with that Pacific Ocean water coming in. Now, once you're down there, you walk through this hand-carved tunnel to get access to the beach, and you can actually experience walking through that arch if you happen to be there during low tide. Unfortunately, we were just really limited for time, so we didn't even end up walking towards the bottom. There was a good amount of people there, and we just decided to take some photos from afar and then start making our way back up because we had an All Blacks game to go to. But it looks really cool, and if we go back to Dunedin, I would absolutely go back there to check that out. Number 7, the Royal Albatross Center. Now, we took a drive to the tip of the Otago Peninsula to get to the Royal Albatross Center for one of the more unique experiences that we'll probably ever have. The drive there is just majestic. And as soon as you park, you can kind of walk on this little trail over towards the cliffs, and there's that view again. all those waves just crashing into the cliffs. Apparently the wind and the clouds actually increase your chances of seeing an albatross, so we got lucky. We pulled up, 5 minutes later we saw 4 or 5 different albatross. We still did go into the Royal Albatross Center to sing albatross a lot. We did book a tour. It was the Albatross Classic. I think it was the cheapest one that you could book. It included a little 20-minute video showcasing the Maori cultural significance of the land, the history, why this is one of the only mainland breeding colonies in the world for the northern royal albatross. Apparently they typically have their chicks on remote islands, so this is essentially a one-of-a-kind place. You go up on this little bunker on the hill and look out over another hill. We were there in July, which was great because between April and September, you will see chicks in their nests that are waiting for their parents to fly in and feed them. These albatrosses are wild creatures. They are not kept in captivity, so there's really no guarantees that you will see anything in that 40 minutes. We got to see an adult flying in to feed their chick, and I'm not a big bird person, but just seeing the sheer size of their wings, like they're so big, really awesome. I'm not going to forget that. Outside of that, there is an evening tour book that you can see blue-eyed penguins coming in at dawn after their day of feeding, as well as a tour of Fort Taiaroa, which was a military base built in the 1880s and used for World War I and II. Honestly, there's a lot of tours that you can take. I think some tours even you get out on a cruise ship out on the water. But if that's really not your thing, you can still take that beautiful drive up there, park, get out of your car, and there's a chance that you might see some albatross hanging out. Either way, I think it's a really cool place to check out. I mean, while you're out there, there's a few things to check out on the peninsula. The weather wasn't the best while we were there, but there's a lot of different walking trails, a good variety of marine life, and really just the drive is pretty great. One of the things that is probably more of an honorable mention is the Larnac Castle. We thought you could just kind of drive in and take a look around. We got up to the gates. They're like, no, it's going to be $20 for you to go in and just take a peek. So we just said, nah, that's all right. Well, you know, we got a lot of other things to do. We don't need to spend another $20 checking out the outside of a castle. I think it was like $40 if you wanted to go in as well. So that seems to be something that a lot of people like to do. Can't not mention it in the video, even though we didn't see it. Does that make sense? Number 9, Forsyth Barr Stadium. Now this is a really nice stadium that's fairly close to downtown. Construction was completed in 2011, and outside of being the home of the Highlanders in the Super Rugby League, it has since hosted a number of famous artists like Elton John, Neil Diamond, Macklemore, Fleetwood Mac, Black Sabbath, Roger Waters, and Ed Sheeran, just to name a few. Or that was a lot, actually. The stadium has recently played host to the FIFA Women's World Cup that's been going on in Australia and New Zealand, as well as the All Blacks, New Zealand's world-class rugby team. That's actually what brought us to Dunedin for the 3rd time, because seeing an All Blacks game has been so high up on our bucket lists. So happy we got it done. Brittany bought tickets for about $80 each, and I gotta say, I'm honestly just surprised how affordable those tickets were. The All Blacks only play 5 or 6 home games per year, but this year, Rugby World Cup is going on in France. So they only get 2 home games this year, one in Auckland and one just recently in Dunedin. For $80, I mean, that's less money than what we pay for an NHL hockey game back home, and when there's like 41 regular season games. So I think that that's just a really good deal. Don't mind splurging on more beers at the game for tickets that cheap. The game did not disappoint, although I thought I was a little bit of bad luck for the first half when the Wallabies were up 17-3. But we got to see a pretty epic comeback completed with a great game-winning kick with about 90 seconds left on the clock. I got nothing bad to say about the stadium, but I mean, you could always have a little more leg room and room in your seat, but other than that, a very nice venue. So if you're looking at coming to Dunedin, I would absolutely go online to see if there are any events that you can attend there. We might be back for their annual beer fest. It's hosted at that stadium. Might go back again, who knows? Maybe we'll see you there. If you're looking for just a really cool nature walk, the Botanical Gardens there were really nice. Honestly, most towns or cities in New Zealand have a very nice garden. A lot of really lovely little trails, walking paths. There's so much to look at. There is a little bird sanctuary there that you can go and check out, and I think we actually saw some Kias there. That was one of the first things that we did there, actually, as we were trying to walk to the Signal Hill Walkway before we found out that's a taller order than we initially thought, so we ended up just hanging out in the gardens. Had a great time. Okay, let's get into a few honorable mentions here. The street art. We got to see a good amount of street art, but I don't think we saw anywhere near as much as the amount of street art is available. Did that make sense? Dunedin is kind of renowned for their public street art and wall murals. There is a Dunedin street art trail that you can walk along. Yeah, it just kind of sucks. We didn't quite get to it. We saw a bunch, but we didn't get to see as much as there is to see. This is absolutely a university town. I heard it can be a lot of fun. Every year they throw the biggest party in New Zealand, and this happens to be the country's oldest university, being founded in 1869. We just took a little walk through the campus, and it was so nice. There's this little river or creek running through it. Architecture is really nice to look at. The clock tower that they had there, I don't know. That'd be cool to go there. Before we wrap up, I'm just going to expand the radius a little bit here and showcase some of the really cool things that we were able to check out just on our different road trips to and from Dunedin. Number 1, Shag Point. Now this is an area about 5 minutes off of Highway 1, a little north of Dunedin, maybe 30-40 minutes, and it was just a really nice little pull-off spot to stretch the legs, take about 20 steps into the viewpoint, and we got to see some New Zealand fur seals. Katiki Point, just down the road a little bit from Shag Point. Again, you park, you get out of your car, everything's pretty much right there. There's a lot of fur seals as well, but this area also has a lighthouse, and it's a very popular spot for seeing yellow-eyed penguins coming into the shore after their day at sea. I'm pretty sure entry is free, so a lot of people probably go there in the evenings to get a glimpse of the penguins coming in. It looked really cool. We didn't want to wait around 6 hours for that to happen, so we just kept moving along. To the Moeraki Boulders. Almost like the Wanaka tree, I've just seen so many photos on Instagram, not really knowing where exactly in the country it was until you just stumble upon it and go, oh, okay, cool. They're actually really nice. I understand why people take photos of them. This is a pretty large tourist area with a big parking lot and a cafe, gift shop, washrooms, and everyone else who drove down to Dunedin for the All Blacks game had the same idea on the way back towards Christchurch. It was pretty busy. Even a few All Blacks were in the parking lot when we got back to the car. But definitely worth the stop to go in and see them. And honestly, I can only imagine seeing the sun rise over the Pacific Oceans in the morning there. It'd just be so cool to be there for that. I am a huge fan of this town, and I've only been able to see it in the fall and winter. I absolutely think that Dunedin should be added to your South Island road trip, even if it is a little bit out of the way. There just always seems to be something cool going on in Dunedin. Please let me know what I missed out on, because your comments are super insightful, and people who are looking to come to Dunedin could definitely add something to their list that's not on my list. If you've watched up to this point, thanks. Appreciate it. Impressive. Give me a like, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.